Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's so great to have you guys with me for another week. It has been literally so crazy. We've had a whole family that have been completely unwell, and shout out to all the mums out here. I finally understand as a mum, like, we are the superwomen of the family. I have so much respect for my mom. I have so much respect for all the mums out there, because when your whole family is sick, there's no time to even recover for yourself. So that is like literally the week we've had. It's been so busy, but I hope you guys have been keeping well. I want to say thank you for I think we're on 60 odd subscribers now. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Just to know that I am praying for all of you individually. Oh, I can't see your names. I'm praying for all of the 60 people and grateful that we are growing together as a family. So we are in the beginning of February, and today I want to talk about, which I think will be a running series, but I want to talk about how to trust God when you are waiting for the one. Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a juicy topic, girl chat. Maybe some guys will watch this too, actually. Boy chat. Sit down, grab a cup of tea, coffee, whatever you like to drink, because we're going to get into it and we're going to go into the real dealio of how you can trust God for your spouse, for your wife, for your husband. And it's one of those cringy topics I think goes around in Christian circles, but sometimes we don't always get the practicality of how do we actually wait on God? How do we trust God for this? What are the things that I can do in this process of waiting? So we're going to get into all of that. I myself, a quick testimony, I might give the full testimony if we get like 50 likes or something, but the quick testimony for me, I was literally single as anything around 2 years ago. And my life has completely changed. I'm now married with baby, like we're a growing family, and God has completely shifted my life completely so quickly. But I was so single a few years ago, waiting, trusting God, praying, fasting, crying, thinking, when is my life going to change? God, when are you going to answer my prayers? When are you going to do it for me? And I'm here to tell you, God will do it for you too. If he's done it for me, he will do it for you. I'm literally a testament of that. But I know what it's like to wait, and I know what it's like to trust God and feel lonely and feel like, it's not going to happen for you. And this is for you if this is how you feel right now. Or you're looking and it's Valentine's and you're thinking, I don't have a date, I don't have a Valentine's. This is definitely for you. I really want to encourage you that your time will come. Trust God in this process. And there's a few things I just want to touch on. We're going to talk about the desire you have, which is a godly desire. If you are desiring to get married, that is a godly desire. That is something that God has probably placed in your heart. But the obsession of it can become ungodly. It can become toxic. It can become something that it shouldn't be. It could be an idol at sometimes. You can be comparing yourself. And that is when it gets a bit crazy. That is when it really truly does affect your waiting season. And like I said, it can become an idol during that process. I know that it can feel hard when there's constantly other people around you in relationships. I remember in times in my single seasons, I'd be walking on the streets, especially around December times, you see people constantly holding hands. And I remember I was like, I'm not going out anymore. This is real. And you might feel like that too. And you're comparing yourself with your friends, you're scrolling on Instagram and you're feeling left out. That is valid. But do not allow your comparison to steal what it is that God has placed on the inside of you, and don't let it become an unhealthy thing. So let's start with your heart. Your heart is very important when it comes to waiting for the right person. Some of you might already have quite an unhealthy obsession, and this is where today you might need to even get before God and really lay it down before him and ask him to remove that, because the good thing cannot come. The spouse that you're waiting for cannot come if there's this unhealthy, toxic obsession with this in the first place. The Bible literally says, you cannot have any other gods apart from God. If you've made having a husband, having a wife, an idol, and it's an unhealthy obsession, it's gonna steal from you. It is gonna kill you. Idols are like literally take away your focus from the one thing that we are meant to have focus on, which is the Lord. So that is, our hearts are so crucial when it comes to the waiting process. It is the foundation. That's why I wanted to start with that. Where is your heart at when it comes to this topic? Where's your heart at when it comes to desiring a spouse? Get that right with God first before anything. And that you might need to do some soul searching, which can be a bit painful, like I said, but it is crucial for you to be able to wait right and to be able to wait to be in the waiting for the right person and wait well for your husband or wife. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, why we're on this topic of checking our hearts, you need to let go of doing things on your own terms. Stop making it happen your way. If you're trusting God to meet your husband, to meet your wife, you cannot force the person that's not meant to be in your life and make them your husband or make them your wife because you want to get married. Sis, bro, it ain't happening like that. If you are trusting God, you're in the waiting process, you want to learn how to wait well, you can't do things on your own terms. I think I said this the other week, that our ways and God's ways are completely different. You need to trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. So that means you need to let go completely of how you did it before. Dating the world's way is not how you're going to do it when you come to find a kingdom spouse or be in a kingdom marriage. You need to really submit it to the Lord. All of your steps, every single part of the process, your thoughts, your feelings, everything when it comes to this person needs to submit all of it to God to be able to have different results. Sometimes we get into situationships with guys or girls who we know we're not meant to be with, but we're trying to help God along the process. God doesn't need our help. If we are submitting it to God and we're trusting him with everything, we don't need to help him along the way for him to help us find our spouse quicker. I just want to give this example of Abraham again, the fact that Abraham laid down his most prized possession, Isaac, his son, and he knew with everything God had given him this promise, but he laid him on the altar knowing that if I sacrifice it, he has faith that God is going to raise him back to life again or provide another son for him. And it's the same here. You need to lay down, okay, this is who I think it's meant to be. This is the person that has got all the potential. If you are not sure and you're not maybe in courtship yet, or you've not passed a certain stage and it's just a situation, lay it down, speak to God. Or maybe God has even been giving you those signs like, don't go there, but you're trying to push and force this way in because the clock is ticking. Your aunties and uncles are asking you, when are you going to marry? Don't do it. Lay it on the altar. Surrender it to God. Because if that person is meant to be your husband, if that person is meant to be your wife, God will, like Abraham, pick it back up and provide when you surrender it, when you trust him, when you let go. He will provide again for you if that's meant to be that person. So I want to encourage you to really let go of those toxic relationships, the people that you know you're not meant to be with. Let it go. You cannot wait God's way without releasing what's meant to go from your life. It's like when you're giving something, right, receiving a gift. If my hands are like this, I won't be able to take what's meant to be for me because my hands are like this. But when we open our hands and we're like, okay, we're in a position now to receive something. So that releasing, that letting go is so powerful. The word kava in the Hebrew means to wait hopefully, to wait expectantly. So when we talk about waiting, that's where the root word comes from, the word kava. So waiting expectantly, waiting hopefully. How you wait is really, really important. What is your heart posture while you're waiting? What are you doing in this season, especially in your single season? I really believe your single season is an opportunity to run for God. It's an opportunity to tend to whatever garden that God has placed you in. If you think about like in the Garden of Eden, right? When Adam was created, he was created before Eve came. God gave him assignment and he was in his purpose. He was naming all of the animals. He was doing his thing. He was walking in his purpose, and Eve came along and added to his purpose. So think about, what is it that God has given me in my garden? What can I tend to right now in this season? What can I give my all to? A lot of the times, like, especially girls, I can talk as a girl, we think about Proverbs 31 and we only think about it as when we become a wife. I want to read a Proverbs 31 wife, which is awesome. We all do, so do I. But you can become that in your single season. You can acquire the skills to be like that person while you're waiting. What type of books are you reading? If you want to become a wife or a husband, are you training yourself up in skills about how to cook? All of these practical things, or opening, like listening to podcasts about how marriages work. Go and serve in some houses with married people, look after their kids. I did that for a time in my single season. I would serve literally couples who had kids, and I would look after the children a lot, because I just was using my single season well, tending to what God had given me, the time I had. And that has actually equipped me so much as well now in my season of marriage, in my season of motherhood. So it's really important. What are you doing now? Don't just sit idle, flicking through Instagram. Build yourself up. Tend to what it is that God has given you. Acquire the right skills, but also walk in purpose. Be purpose driven in this time. Build the kingdom of God. Do what it is that God has called you to do. Walk in purpose. Being single is not a death sentence. I want to say that because sometimes, especially when we're younger, we feel like it can be, and you feel like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. But it's not going to be like that for the rest of your life. It's not a death sentence. It's probably one of the best times in your life to live. I was going to say to live purposefully, but it's not. It's probably one of the best times that you will enjoy. And it's, the Bible literally says, in your single season, you can do more sometimes than when you're married, because there's just different responsibilities. So be intentional to run with the Lord. Be intentional to run with God and stay purposeful during this time. And I really believe that can help you while you're waiting, because as you're running, it's like, if you think about in a race, when you're running in your race, the person that God is preparing for you, because remember, as you're preparing, as you're building, there's a whole nother person that's baking in the oven, if you think about it like that. And they're baking in the oven, and as they're growing and they're running, you then become in the race, like when you're like in a relay and you're about to pass the baton. And when you get to that point when you're meant to come together, it's because you're both running, you're both walking in your purpose, and that is how most of the times you meet. So if you're just doing nothing and you stop, and this person's, you're not gonna cross paths. So yeah, just keep running, keep walking in your purpose, keep running. And finally, build yourself, develop yourself as a person. I think it's really important to talk about why do you want to get married, the purpose of marriage, right? If you're listening to this and you're here at this point, it's because you're waiting, you're trusting God for the one. But that means you need to understand the purpose of marriage. It's not just because we want to have companionship, which is nice, obviously, or you want to do things together, have cute pictures. No, there is a purpose for your union. When two people come together, it's because there's two is better than one. One can put 1,000 to flight, two can put 10,000 to flight, right? And that means in the kingdom of God, you're going to do more for the kingdom. There's a purpose for your marriage when two people come together, and that is really, really important. So you need to work on yourself. It's not just me coming into a marriage. It's two people coming together, and it's a process of becoming one. So I can share from a newlywed point of view. I've even been married now nearly coming up 2 years. As I said at the beginning, literally engaged, married, baby, all within the space of just over a year, to be honest, 1.5 years, which has been crazy. Comment below if you want the testimony. But yeah, I really had to work on myself. I remember my single season, I thought, smashed it. I really thought that I was doing well in my single season, which to an extent I did. I built myself up. I was doing all the things that I'm talking to you about, running my race for God, living a life of purpose. But when I was stepped into a marriage, there were some things I did not focus on in my single season when it comes to preparing for marriage, preparing for the wife I wanted to be, preparing for the husband that I needed to cater for. All of these things. For example, I was very, I have been a very independent person for most of my life, lived on my own, provided for myself, yada yada yada. And having an independent mindset in a marriage, it's not going to work. So you need to, I had to deal with a lot of these things also before I got married, but also in the marriage, because I didn't deal with all of it. It wasn't something that I thought about really, to be honest. But I would have done it earlier if it came to my mind, or if it was highlighted earlier. This is crucial. You need to deal with emotional baggage, things that have happened in your past, traumas, because literally marriage shines a light on those things in your past. It shines a light on the hidden and dark things that maybe you've kept to the side, but your partner is like a mirror that mirrors you, and actually it helps you to evolve. It's the process of refinement, helping you become, it's the biggest refining process that helps you to become more like Jesus. But because it's like that, it shines a light on those cracks, those areas that you thought were hidden, which is why we need to continuously improve ourselves, work on ourselves, deal with the hurts, deal with unforgiveness, deal with how you deal with conflict, how you manage certain situations, dying to yourself, forgiving someone over and over again. All of these things are part of working on yourself, and it's crucial when it comes to, you know, preparing for the one. Also, I want to talk a bit more on hurts, past hurts. There are a lot of things that maybe happen in your past. It's real life, baby. There's a lot of things that happen maybe in your past or past relationships that have really damaged you. This can really impact us when we go into our next relationships. Knowingly and unknowingly, it can really impact us when we go into our next relationships. And it's so important to deal with this with God, release it, forgive the people you need to forgive, deliverance if that needs to be the case, but making sure that you deal with those past relationships and the past hurts, so you don't transfer that and take that on in your next marriage, because it can cause a lot of conflict, it can cause a lot of disagreements and strife within your next situation. And you want to be whole. Obviously, we're not all perfect when we go into our marriages. Like, there's so many things that I'm working on still and growing through, but you want to be at a place where you are whole within yourself, where you are content. Crucial to be able to walk into your next relationship. I know that was like my last point, but finally, when you're waiting for the one, contentment with the Lord is key. Contentment in relationship with God, where you're at in life, is so key. I remember there was a point in my walk, I was at a prayer meeting, and the leader said, I think our pastor, she said, if you're in the same position for the rest of your life, if you never got married, blah 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 blah, will you still be happy with God? And I literally stood there and I thought to myself, honestly speaking, I was like, oh, but God, you know, this is a desire that I've always had. If I was really single for the rest of my life, would I be happy? And I honestly answered in my head, and I was like, no, I wouldn't. But Lord, help me become content with that. And I remember I left that meeting and I went home broken, because I was like, Lord, I really want to be happy with only you. And I remember I went on my knees that night and I stood before God and I was crying out to him that, Lord, this is my heart right now. And I was honest, but change it. I want to be so content with you that if this was the situation for the rest of my life, I want to be happy with you. And long story short, a few months later, me and my husband came together. But this is what I'm saying, contentment with God is crucial. Your spouse will not be able to fulfill you. Your boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, none of those people can fulfill you as much as God will fulfill you. He is the be all and the end all. He is the Alpha and the Omega, and he's the lover of our soul, right? And everything else complements us, but God is the love of our soul. So you need to get that relationship in your life, the first one, a priority, and get it right first, and then everything else will fall into place. So being content with that and fixing your relationship with God is the key also to waiting and trusting God for the one. I hope all of these tips were helpful. There's so much to say on this, and it's hard for it not to be such a long video, but if you want me to talk about more on waiting, dating, to share my testimony, how I met my husband, talk about motherhood, what like date red flags, how to avoid Ishmaels. I have a lot of stories, and I love to share more on this topic. I'm really passionate about it as well because I feel like it's not always shared enough. It's been so great chatting with you guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Put a comment down below. How are you trusting God in your dating season? Is there something that you're struggling with? I would love to help. Comment down below. And until next time, love you guys.